Hello, everybody. This is the Dream It Alive show. I'm your host, Ash Kumra, co-founder of DreamItAlive.com. DreamItAlive.com is a global community that guides you to create your dream life with visualization tools, dream boards, and helpful personal development content. Check it out at DreamItAlive.com. Why not take the next step and become the best version of you? Along those lines of becoming the best version of you is doing things that utilize your soul and really pushing your boundaries. And one of the most important areas to leverage both these areas is in wealth creation. Wealth creation being not only just making lots of money, but wealth creation meaning you're making an impact for the world, you're paying it forward, you're making a social impact, and your influence is just spreading everywhere, and you are that go-to person to manifest whatever it is that you truly desire. And I'm really excited to have today's guest, Christine Kane, because I feel that she really understands what it means to use your soul and defy gravity to achieve wealth. In fact, on her own website, on ChristineKane.com, she actually talks about this, and it was really impressive, and it actually led me to create the show title. And but Christine Kane is, just for those who don't know, she is someone who's changing the world. She's the founder and president of Uplevel U, which is a multi-million-dollar company committed to the growth and empowerment of entrepreneurs and creators around the globe through teaching not only high-level, cutting-edge, authentic marketing and business strategies, but also transformational techniques to shift mindsets and wealth. And she's a big deal. I'm not going to lie. She's worked with over 1,000 people through her mastery program and blueprint program, and she's a well-known speaker. I actually came upon Christine Kane about, I would say, almost 2 years ago when I was doing a search on vision boards on Google, and she was one of the first search results, and I believe it's still one of the first search results. Her explanation of how vision boards can help you manifest anything and help be a blueprint for your life is definitely worth reading. And yeah, she's just a gem of a person, and I'm really excited to have her on the show. So Christine, how are you doing today?
Hey Ash, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, not a problem.
And what a sweet introduction. Thank you very much for that.
Hey, it is my honor. It is my honor. Christine, I don't know where to start. You've done so many things. Why don't you first tell us, if you don't mind, how you developed this wealth creation mindset that you now incorporate with yourself and through the many things you're doing with Uplevel U.
Well, I'm happy to. The thing that I always start with people, the reason why I am so passionate about this is that this was not, the idea of wealth, the idea of abundance was not how I was naturally wired. And I think it's really important to say that because there's so many people out there touting wealth principles and wealth this and wealth that. And there's, I think it can be very discouraging for some people, especially those of us for whom we didn't start off that way. So I was an artist when I began. I was a musician, and I was broke. There was a point where I was on food stamps, and I had a lot of stuff, let's just put it that way, muck and stuff and gunk around the idea of wealth. And I think a lot of times when we have that, it's because of how it has been shown to us, taught to us, and how we've been wired to think about it. And so it becomes a really frightening concept because of all the reactions and all the things inside of us. And when I started performing music and I began to get successful using business principles, using mindset principles, I had to come face to face with some of the old programming I had around what money is and what money is for. And I love what you said when you were introducing the show today, where you talked about what wealth is and can be, and that it is a tool and that it is a service, and that it's, with that, I always am teaching people that you serve people by becoming wealthy, by letting that open up so that you can become, part of the economy and create your own economy is what I tell people, and they're business owners. So I think the way I would talk about my own wealth consciousness is that it's been a combination of the things that you teach so beautifully at Dream It Alive, where you're setting intentions. And I don't mean necessarily goals and grabbing things. I mean setting intentions for who you want to become and recognizing that in the process, you're going to have to let go of some things that have held you back, and that sometimes those letting go moments are where the growth really comes, and they're also the most painful parts of the path of wealth and abundance, for sure.
That's amazing. So now that you have explained a little about how you develop it, tell us a little more about your past. You said you were a musician and you had a totally different lifestyle, which I could totally relate to, by the way. In another lifetime, I was doing work in the entertainment world, like pure play, film marketing, and things like that. And while externally it was great, I helped work on some Oscar-winning projects, and I got a lot of recognition. Internally, I didn't feel like my soul was being satisfied. Did you go through something like that?
No, for me, music was where everything started because I wasn't working for other people, I was working for myself. And so the beginning of my path was this dream that I had, I'm going to play music and I'm going to be discovered. And I just thought that, as soon as I started following my passion, quote unquote, that the world would decide to sign me up on their record contract and I would become instantly famous. And what I found out after the first year is that, if you want to survive and thrive and succeed as an artist, you're going to have to get really serious about being a business and having a business that supports you. And I am a big advocate of setting goals, not because of the goal you achieve, but because of who you become on the way. And for me, what music really was who I became on the way, because I had to grow up. And I don't mean that in a negative, mean sort of way. What I mean is that part of the growth that I went through was, yes, the creativity and becoming more successful on stage. But then what happened was I realized that it was a service profession. It wasn't about my ego. And I really had to get clear that in order to serve people in the ways I was learning how to do, I had to get really good at running my business. And that's when I had to get really good at wealth, abundance, and prosperity instead of slinking into my old beliefs about it. So it was a little different for me than it was for you, but it was my starting point. And what started to happen in this evolution was that was, that 12 years of my life led me to create the business I have now because of everything it taught me and it required me to become.
That's fantastic.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Okay.
So we've kind of talked a little about how you developed this mindset. We've talked a little about, how your past has helped create the person that you are, which is imperative. Tell us a little about, your mission now with Uplevel U. Like, this is kind of your soundbite to say, why Uplevel U is so needed for the world.
Because, wow. There's so much to say about that. I think for me, I don't have one of those missions that I'm going to change the lives of 1 million people. For me, it's very personal. It's about the hearts and souls of every single person who I work with. And it just so happens that they all either have a business or want to start one. And this is where I'm very passionate about 2 tracks of having a business. The first track, and this is just for everybody to understand about being an entrepreneur, is the first track is a strategy track where you have to learn how to run the business, how to set up the systems, how to market, all those things, and I love that and I teach that. But alongside of it is always running what I call the soul track. And this is where you have your mindset. This is where the soft stuff comes in that really actually rules what's happening on the strategy track. So I'm passionate about up-leveling because those 2 tracks and that process of being an entrepreneur and who you become never stops. You are always expanding. I'm not about driving forward for getting more. I'm not about grab. It is literally an evolution, and what I'm passionate about is helping someone become that and sustain their work as a business owner and grow something that is strong and world-changing in the process.
I love that. Well, let's talk a little more about the soul work. What are some of the tenets or things that one needs to do to really leverage the soul to achieve wealth?
Well, I think clarity is the ultimate abundance mindset. And what I mean by clarity is that a lot of people want to run a business, but they don't want to have to face the consequences of getting clear and making clear choices. And so they price themselves for one person this way, for another person this way. They'll, for example, just put together a package and not really price what they want to be making or the value they provide. And when you don't get really clear about who you are, the value you provide, and get over some of the shame, guilt, and all of the stuff you have around money and charging, you'll just never get your business to a place where it is sustaining you or serving other people, because you're so busy reacting to A, your stuff around money, and B, what other people think of you, what other people want from you. And as a business owner, clarity is the ultimate, like I said, the ultimate abundance mindset. So everything starts with getting really clear. So you have to learn how you think and how to strategize in your business from that sole perspective of, what's in the way of me getting what I want in my mindset.
Okay, but just to push that a little further, how do you
go for it? Yeah.
How do you get clear? Like I'll tell you an example that I dealing with many entrepreneurs. Let's say you're building a venture and you have these you're living on month-to-month cash flow, for your business, and there's 2 or 3 business model opportunities that all have equal, work to create them, all could create equal amount of revenues. How do you choose one over the other? Like, how do you focus? How do you get clear on what makes sense?
Well, okay, that's a loaded question, because I don't know, like, I'm not coaching that person. So if they have 3 different choices and they all look good, I think then there's different places we make decisions from. So a lot of times people end up in a place of ruminating and obsessing, and they never actually make a decision.
True.
So a decision is the ultimate. It's just the ultimate thing. This is what entrepreneurs do. One of my favorite posts of Seth Godin's is called "What Do You Make?" And the next line is decisions, because that's what entrepreneurs do. So in a situation like this, where all 3 weighed out are perfect, then you have to go deeper into your body, into your goals. Like, where do you want to go? And the other thing is that I think you're asking a question from, there is only one right decision, and if you make a wrong decision, you're screwed. And all of us are decision-making machines. And so I talk about decisions with my clients from 2 places. One is the proactive place of how are you caring for your mindset? How are you setting up your systems? How are you caring for your habits? And setting yourself up to be an empowered entrepreneur who is not, like, for instance, drained in your brain, who is not exhausted because you only got 3 hours of sleep the last 4 nights, who is not exhausted because of the constant leaks in your systems in your work. So you proactively have to think about stuff. But then in the moment, a decision, I honestly don't believe there is like a right decision and then oh wow, if you don't make this right, you're going to be messed up. Because the great thing about us as entrepreneurs is that what other people call failure, we call research and development. So you move forward, and you move forward consciously, and you keep making decisions consciously. So it's a tough one. I know I'm not trying to put on my Wonder Woman bracelets and dodge your question, but it's a great question, and at the same time, there's so many components when someone is in a place where they're making a quote-unquote decision. But even before that decision comes, if I was coaching that person, I would be making sure they were clear on a lot of different fronts, like they were living and setting up their business from a place of clarity in their systems, in their structures, in their marketing, in their vision for themselves.
Okay, no, that's awesome. Well, I'll make it a little more broad and general for the non-entrepreneurs out there. How do you get, what habits or what things one can do to gain clarity? Because one thing I'm finding, and I'm a student of life like everyone else is that in order to be clear and in order to know what I need to do, I got to really develop a very clear-minded mindfulness, like meditation, eating right. I mean, these are some things I do. What do you do, or what do you recommend for people?
Okay, so first place is exactly what you're saying. I think it comes down to a combination of different types of habits that you create for yourself. And that doesn't mean I'm telling people to go nutso and create 17 different habits before they'll even start their day. I think what you just elaborated upon is huge. And it's so easy to just move right beyond and say, yeah, diet's everything. I think that as entrepreneurs, where I would start is not to blow through a list of habits right now and say, do this, do this, do this, do this. Because then everybody's just taking in the information from their brain, writing it down, and it becomes yet another should. the place I start with anybody in life who is, like you said, a seeker, is taking charge of their life, is that, do you take yourself seriously as a leader? Because if you're an entrepreneur, you definitely need to. But if you're not an entrepreneur, that's fine too. But we need you to lead us. That's, and I'm quoting Seth Godin again. But being a leader means you take yourself and honor yourself. Take yourself seriously enough and honor yourself enough to take full care of yourself. And that means consciously creating habits. And yes, diet is huge. We're discovering it's becoming bigger and bigger of an issue for brain health and for functioning and for decision making and for being able to be resilient. And so I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I follow a pretty, kind of like low-carb, paleo, high-fat, and I've noticed an enormous difference for how I operate. I also don't eat sugar, and I take very good care of that aspect of things. The next thing you mentioned was meditation.
Yep.
I think you can set up a meditation. Oh, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
No, I just said yep.
Okay. So meditation, huge. I really believe in any kind of meditation people can do. I personally, since you asked what I do, I practice mindfulness meditation. And I go pretty low, like in terms of my expectations of myself. I don't try to do, 2 half-hour sessions a day. I do 15 minutes a day, and I notice it makes an enormous impact for me. And I'll keep adding on to that. But I think it's so key. Now, another of my biggest practice, and I'll say probably my client's favorite thing that I teach, is, let's say it doesn't matter if you are a self-employed, meaning no team, solopreneur, or team. I think you need to get into a habit that involves yearly overviews, quarterly overviews, monthly overviews, weekly overviews, and daily. So when I start somebody on this, the first thing I'll start them on is just weekly, and I have something I call a Sunday Summit. So on Sundays, before you're getting ready for the week, it's just very worth taking 20 minutes of your time, and all you need to do is review. I have a whole tool that I give to my clients for this, but it's a review of the last week where you're saying, what accomplishments am I celebrating? What challenges do I have right now? If I were coaching myself, what would I tell myself about these challenges? And what are my top 3 priorities to get done next week? And if the only thing I could get done was one thing, what would it be? And then I have them choose one word that they want to embody in the coming week. And the idea of setting up things that are, that's a self-summit. That's a managing of your own power kind of thing. But the idea of doing that is that you set up practices and habits where you are telling your mindset where you want it to go. You are setting the GPS course for that. Not in a driven, overly motivational way, but you're guiding yourself. And it's self-management, not time management. And when you get in the habit of it, not doing it once, not doing it twice, but usually my clients, after the 3rd or 4th time, they will say, oh my God, this is changing how I do my weeks. And then I'll say, good, let's talk about monthly. What do you do each month and quarterly? And so I have my team on a meeting schedule like this because we stay connected as a team. But doing it for yourself, especially if you're a business owner, it really helps you stay on track with your priorities and your mindset and who you want to be as you're growing and expanding in your work.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's some amazing knowledge there. And I was writing down some notes as you were talking. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, well, anytime you want to hop on the phone, Ash, I'll walk you through it. I'll have my team send you the Sunday Summit if you want.
I actually might take you up on that.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I have a little training that I did on it, too. I'll send it to you.
Nice. I want to talk about some of the more goal-setting tools and other areas of life that can help you once you achieve that, once you develop the mindset, once you're kind of clear on what you want to do. The next thing I feel is, putting it down. Vision boards or goal setting tools, what role do these things play in your life?
Oh, I think what you do at DreamItAlive is huge. I think that's the overall vision. So the reason we do weekly and quarterly is so that we can stay in touch with that, because it's very easy to do a vision board or a DreamItAlive board. The stuff you have up there is great, but as you know from experience, it's so easy to get off track because gravity. We go back to our usual stuff, and we question ourselves and we doubt ourselves, and our brains are wired to look at what's not working. And so those things, those tools for overviews of, what do I want and why do I want this and who am I becoming, they guide us, they lead us. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've seen for myself and other people, when they set an intention, when they do a vision board, there are things that come about and they never even had to do anything. It just evolved. And they evolved into someone who could attract it or become it, or whatever way you want to think about that. But I think that overall vision needs to be the guiding force. And I want to address something here, because I think I've seen on the internet and in a lot of more, spiritual books, people talking about the perspective of, intention, that's just your ego saying this is what it wants. And I teach marketing from this perspective, and I teach mindset from this perspective. Your clients and customers enter the ocean where they're going to enter the ocean. Don't drag them in deeper with your marketing message, taking them too far. Like, for instance, if a weight loss coach says, it's not about the weight, but for that person, when they're entering the ocean, it is about the weight. And when someone is starting a vision board, it is about the money. Like right now, they just want the money. If your ego is part of your vision at first, I think that's fine, because my belief is that you set goals, again, not because of grabbing and getting and achieving, but because you are destined and your soul wants you to become along the way. And so the judgment of saying, I'm not allowed to want because of my ego, and all these spiritual teachers are saying it's ego, I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, I get their point. I see what they're saying. But I also think we need to enter the ocean where we enter the ocean, because who's to say that the guy who jumps into the, make $40,000 overnight in your real estate investing thing, doesn't become somebody because of that path? Because everyone has to start their desire where they start their desire. And I think that the tools like vision boards and Word of the Year like I do, and DreamItAlive and all those things, they show our heart's possibility. They show us a path that, like, this is what I want right now. It may evolve into something bigger. It may turn into more of a spiritual thing or less ego. I kind of don't care. I think you just need to get started. And getting started is something without all the rules. Just get going.
I love that. Well, what was on your original vision board, or your mental vision board if you didn't have it, before you created Uplevel U?
It's funny. Uplevel U was sort of an expansion off of my music career, because what happened in my music world, I made many, many vision boards when I was in music, and I have like just some astounding things that happened and also didn't happen and taught me as well. But what's interesting is by the time I created Uplevel U, I had done enough of this work that the intention that came to me was somewhere around 2005, I knew I wasn't going to be playing music forever. And this is when I was, at the most successful, playing in performance halls and coffee houses and theaters, and, I had done a show with John Mayer, like stuff was happening. And something in me said, this is not going to be where this continues. I knew it. And so what I did at that point was I just stayed open to what doors were opening to me. And so that's when I started blogging, and I started just paying attention. So it wasn't necessarily I'm going to do a vision board or an intention around Uplevel U, because what happened was I began with things are going to be changing. The intention was really, I'm open to whatever's going to happen here. And the service, though, of being a musician versus the service of being the coach was really essentially the same thing, because I was impacting people with my message in both arenas. And so the vision board idea, like my vision boards rarely had performance halls. Only one time did I have a Grammy thing on there, but then I had a big learning about how I didn't really even care about Grammys. But most of it was about impacting people. And that's where it ended up getting, the vision board piece of it ended up expanding and expanding and expanding to where I was impacting people with my coaching and my training more than just standing on the stage and playing my guitar.
I love that. Well, I love how what you just said, because often a lot of things happen when you just let the universe just guide you instead of having this end game saying, I have to have things done this way. It's like you're talking about your music business or your music venture. Hey, I was doing music stuff. Yeah, Uplevel U kind of just came naturally as an extension of that. And am I kind of right in saying that?
Totally. And people, it's funny, the people who, I have clients who have been with me for 7, 8 years. And they were fans of my music, and then they would come to my retreats when I started retreats. Then they did my first Uplevel Your Life program. Then they did Uplevel Your Business. Then they, when Uplevel U formed, they stayed with me. So they've seen it all evolve, so they understand the process of it. But somebody who was like a music fan, let's say in San Francisco, and suddenly discovers that I'm not doing music anymore and finds my website, they think it's like the weirdest thing in the world, except they weren't inside of my heart when I was on stage. So when I was on stage, it looked like I was just playing songs and doing stage banter and making people laugh and selling CDs, whereas consciously in my mind, I was really tapped into the fact that this is a business, this is a service. I may be an artist, but I know that I'm opening hearts here, and I took that very seriously, even though I didn't talk about it on stage. And so when it came time to become a coach, yeah, exactly. I had done this work, like the work that you do, the work that I do, I'd done it enough to trust that something was shifting. I didn't try to force it at that point, which is not to say that people can't, articulate clearly what they're doing now. There was a point where I said, I'm going to now stop. In 2009, I said, this is my last CD. I had a big farewell performance, and I went full-time I didn't even call it Uplevel U at that point. Uplevel U didn't become an entity until 2011, and then it really took off. So I did reach a point where I said, here's what it's going to be called, here's what I'm doing, here's my vision for it. But at first, it was a lot about the unfoldment and being able to trust that process and trust the fact that my vision has always guided me. Not always, I've fallen on my ass many, many times, but I've always pulled myself back up and kept my eyes on that vision.
I love that. Well, I'm kind of curious, and this is I'm going to switch gears for a second, getting back to the present moment. One of the things I've been seeing is that the personal development, self-growth, self-help movement, however you want to define it, I call it the conscious education movement, is really growing now. I'm seeing so much stuff happening out there. I'm seeing so many new authors come out. I am seeing, dedicated shows like Oprah's Super Soul Sunday. There's programs and initiatives like what you're doing. What do you think is happening right now to society that's causing this growth in all these areas? I mean, are there what do you think is happening with society right now? What gets you jazzed up right now?
I think it's multi-layered. I think there's different levels to what's happening. I think on one level you have technology expanding exponentially, a la Moore's Law, if you want to look at it that way, where we are not needing gatekeepers to have conversations anymore. We don't need a book company. We don't need a record label. We don't need an Oprah even though Oprah's dove in all the ways that you need to be a part of the conversation. But it's not through any main channel. It's through technology. We're all talking to each other, so tribes are finding each other more readily, and conversations are happening more easily. And so I think the conversations that are happening are reaching more people naturally. And at the same time, I also think that there is a spiritual hunger in a world that got, ridiculously materialistic in a way that it's just, I don't think, to me, the people I know, it's not sustainable. And I'm in a mastermind with people who have $100 million businesses. It's not just $2 million. It's hundreds of millions. And the amount, it's interesting, the amount of conversations I have behind the scenes with them, because they know that I'm sort of a little bit on the woo side.
Yeah.
I'm into business strategy. Yeah, I'm into marketing. But they'll always pull me aside. One guy was sitting next to me, and I can't actually even go into what he does because it's so high level in terms of defense technology and stuff like that. He admitted to me he reads Abraham Hicks and loves Abraham Hicks, and I'm just going, oh my God, this is amazing. And it's true how many people are recognizing that the ego drives is, and like I said, I'm not against them. It's just they can't carry us to where we really are desiring to go. And I really believe that people are recognizing how immensely powerful we are and that when we open up and when we allow and when we intend that, and when we trust, that the fear that has driven us is so not the truth. And the freedom that comes when you can let that go. And I'm not saying it's easy, because I'm certainly not there yet, but when you can really and truly release that fear and really tap into something higher, then that's when you experience true joy, true happiness, true success, true abundance, and true wealth. And I think people are really desiring that more than all the things we've been taught to desire our whole lives, like this thing, contracting and getting it all right, and the perfect car and the perfect this and the perfect that. And again, this comes back to technology. I think there are people who have shown us that it's okay to have a different alternate lifestyle. You see it all the time now. There's no one way to be. There's no requirement. There's no rules. And people are opening up and finding out so much great stuff. But now I think that they're really trying to seek wisdom on top of all the information that they're already getting. Like, really, what does wisdom look like? And that's what drives you back into yourself to say, where's my soul and what's really true for me? Whether I'm a business person, entrepreneur, whatever.
Okay. Well, I have two quick questions before we end this interview, and I feel like we could talk for hours. This is such a great conversation. So believe me, I'm hesitant.
It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah. I'm curious, what is Uplevel U up to, and what can people be on the lookout for in 2015? Because that's when this interview will be more promoted and shared to the world.
Well, right now we are doing the, as 2015 begins, we're talking about choosing a word for the year, which is one of the ways I encourage people to set intentions, because rather than resolutions and demands on yourself, I always say to people, when you choose a word to guide you, it is so much more profound what really does start to happen. And interesting, when you talked about Uplevel U, the word of the year I had chosen the year I formed Uplevel U was Uplevel, because I'd heard someone say it, and I was like, that's my word of the year. And then by the end of the year, I had this company, and we made $300,000, and it was pretty cool. If people want to get that, we do have that at ChristineKane.com, which is ChristineKane.com, and you just do /word. So ChristineKane.com /word. You can grab the word of the year discovery tool, and I write all about it, and it's just a great tool to use. But what we're going to be doing at the beginning of 2015 is launching my Uplevel Your Business program, which is a way people can, it's a 10-module path to really setting up a business with a strong foundation around the clarity pieces of ideal client and positioning and messaging, as well as marketing and stay-in-touch marketing, and then learning how to sell. So it's a full system for how to set up your business in a way that makes you more successful, makes you a lot more money, and also keeps you tapped into your authenticity and soul. And, not have to try strange little stupid tactics. It's everything that I've done to grow my business.
Awesome. Well, my last question is, if you could talk to the 21-year-old version of yourself, which is only like a few years ago, right? If you could talk to that person, what would you say to that person?
I would say worry less about what people think about you and take more chances and take them faster.
I love it.
That's the key piece, and that's what has stalled me. Like in my past, what stalled me out at that age was always like, oh my God, what are they going to think? And, and I might fail, and at 21 thinking that you're so old and you're supposed to be wiser. And there's never a point I think you feel like, your age that you're supposed to be. And so I would just say take more chances, worry less about what people think about you. That's a great question, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Christine, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you, more importantly, for making the world be a better place every day with every client, every venture you're doing. And I cannot wait to collaborate with you in 2015 and just support you any way I can.
Oh, thank you, and thanks for everything you're doing as well. And thanks for having me.
No problem. Have a good day.
Bye.